A new Bungie weekly update has just been released, unveiling a bunch of new official information, including the announcement of the next Faction Rally and how Faction Rallies are changing in Season 3. So, let's get started. What is up, guys? Rick Cacus here, and today, yes, we have a new This Week at Bungie. Now, this week's is certainly not as info-packed as last week's. That was an absolutely huge update, talked about most of the balancing changes coming to weapons and abilities and subclasses and so on. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out, but this week's was a lot more tame. Still, we did get some info, so let's just get started right on that. First off, we have the announcement of the next Faction Rally. It begins at 10 a.m. Pacific on Tuesday, March 20th. Now, interestingly, this is the last Faction Rally of Season 2. So there's going to be no more Faction Rallies after this one until the next DLC hits. Now, when that next expansion, DLC number 2, does hit sometime in May, you are going to be able to access Faction Rallies even if you don't own the DLC, but those new Faction Rallies will be in the Season 3 guys, and they will be updated and changed to reflect that. So this again is going to be the last one until that DLC drops. So, what are the weapons available for this next Faction Rally? Well, in terms of weapons added to the vendor loot pool, New Monarchy is getting a new shotgun, Future War Cult is also getting a new shotgun, and Dead Orbit is getting a new SMG. On top of that, we also have the new prize weapons. Remember, whoever's faction gets the most tokens overall, this weapon will be available to purchase for everyone for 50,000 Glimmer, but if you did pledge to the winning faction, it's only 1,000 Glimmer. Now, Future War Cult, who hasn't won a single faction rally, is getting a sniper rifle. If it's good, maybe they can actually crank out the victory. Next up, we have, for New Monarchy, a grenade launcher, and it does look like a high-capacity grenade launcher, so this thing could also be quite decent. As for Dead Orbit, they are also getting a sniper rifle. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys are thinking, well, that's great and all, but you said this would be the last Faction Rally of Season 2. What is changing for Season 3? Well, Bungie did outline that. So, firstly, because this is the last Faction Rally of Season 2, this is your last chance to get faction ornaments. Remember that. So you're going to have the event ending on March 27th when the big patch hits, and then there's going to be the Victory Week where the weapon is available for sale until April 3rd. If you want any ornaments, you have to buy them before April 3rd, because then they're pretty much gone forever. Now, when they do return, here are the things Bungie is planning to change. Number 1, pledging to a faction should be a meaningful choice. That's interesting. Right now, if you have 3 characters, you pledge 1 to each different faction, so you always are guaranteed a cheap prize weapon, and there's not any cost for doing so, making it so that, for example, you could only pledge to 1 faction per account would make the prize situation a lot more intense, that's for sure. The next point here is that rewards should not be time-gated. It's somewhat interesting and somewhat I'm slightly concerned about that. It's interesting in the fact that, yes, time-gated rewards can definitely be annoying, but I'm always wary of things like that because Destiny 2 hands out loot so much, and one of the main problems is that, you know, everyone has all the loot, so no one is willing to play the activities because they don't care about the loot, making loot even easier to get. Anytime I see that, I'm slightly worried about that. The next point here is Faction Rallies should provide a unique gameplay experience and not simply be a reward layer on top of the existing game. That is really cool. Right now, you just play the game as you normally would. You grind strikes or public events or lost sectors or whatever, and then you just earn the tokens. I actually don't, hate that idea. I do actually really like the prize weapon idea. I think that's really cool, but now, in Season 3, when Faction Rallies are going to hit, they're going to actually offer something unique in terms of gameplay, a totally different activity, maybe a totally different PvP experience. There's a lot of interesting things they could do. I know for PvP, the idea of having a 3-team deathmatch So like having 4 players versus 4 players versus another 4 players on the same map, that would be pretty intense, and also could be super fun, and it would be very unique for Faction Rallies. Moving on, the next point is the event should grant additional insight into faction lore and goals. So, that's actually pretty interesting. Right now, you have a deep lore for the 3 factions, but, Destiny 2 isn't so good at deep lore as a whole, right? And so, improving the lore aspect for factions and finding out what these factions are all about, for a lot of players, I think those players just don't know. Like, the casual player wouldn't know what New Monarchy's message is, right? Because the game doesn't tell you basically at all. So improving upon that is going to be a good thing. And the last point here is it should build upon player interest in lost sectors and armor ornament objectives. That's a really interesting point. So lost sectors, hey? Well, I'm someone who definitely grinds public events, but I do know that, technically the fastest way to get those tokens most of the time is lost sectors. Bungie could be slightly reading that wrong and saying, oh, everyone loves lost sectors when faction rallies come. No, we're just trying to make our time the most efficient as it can be. But, we talked earlier about providing a unique gameplay experience, and Bungie is saying we're going to build upon the player interest of lost sectors. Perhaps when faction rallies hit, lost sectors will change. Perhaps there will be new bosses in lost sectors. Perhaps you'll have even new lost sectors appearing and only doable during faction rally events. There's a lot of cool possibilities there. Lost sectors are a sweet aspect of the game, but they really aren't expanded upon enough. And armor ornaments, armor ornaments are decent, they look cool, but for me, I'm more interested in weapons. Always, things that actually impact gameplay. Now moving on from there, we did get some information about upcoming balances. So Bungie states, the Sandbox team let us know that in the upcoming Go Fast update, they are increasing hipfire accuracy and aim down sights accuracy for hand cannons on consoles. And it was actually asked of the developers on Twitter, and they responded that this would also apply to controller users on PC. So if you use a controller on the PC, you're also going to gain this benefit, apparently. But of course, a lot of people asked about in-air accuracy, because in-air accuracy has been lowered substantially from where it was, especially in vanilla Destiny 1, and doing so kind of lowers the skill gap. If you have high in-air accuracy, you can have very skilled players jumping around and landing their shots mid-air. So, Bungie community manager Cosmo tweeted out that these changes to hipfire and ADS would also increase in-air accuracy. So I think a lot of players are very happy to see that. Some, I'm sure, are not. Now before we go here, we do also have some information about what's coming in the next few weeks. So firstly, the next weekly update, Bungie did say that they're going to be back with another weekly update that has more information on patch 1.1.4, the March update, and they say that they're going to show off new Nightfall unique rewards. So next week, that's a big day. If they're actually going to have unique weapons and armor, that's going to be huge for Nightfalls. Anything less, it's going to be a very disappointing day. A lot rides on that. Because in Destiny 1, Strike exclusive loot gave a lot of people a lot to do. Grinding for the more powerful Strike weapons was something so many people did. Grinding for a God Roll Imago Loop hand cannon, grinding for the God Roll Grasp of Malik pulse rifle. These were top tier weapons. For me personally, it was grinding for a God Roll Baron's Ambition machine gun. I absolutely loved that gun when I finally did get it. And in D1, you had a much better chance to get these weapons during the Nightfall, so farming Nightfall for these Strike weapons was something people were already doing. Just making them dedicated Nightfall rewards in D2, that is such a good idea, but again, it could go so wrong if not substantial enough. Also, they're going to release an updated development roadmap. Here's the latest one tomorrow, so I don't know what's changing, but I'll keep you guys posted. In any event, guys, that is it for all the information as of today. Hope you guys enjoyed the video and found it informative. Now, if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. Now, if you guys want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.